Hey guys, Stuart Trier here from Marketing Cheat Guides. Today I have on the show Hannah Thorpe. She's the head of SEO at found.co.uk. She has been an agency owner and now is head of SEO. And I thought it would be really interesting to discuss her story since she's done both. So thanks so much for joining us today on the show. And why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about your background and how you found yourself in the SEO industry to begin with?
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. I guess starting from the start with how I kind of ended up in SEO, I think like a lot of people, for me, it was a bit of an accident. My background, I studied politics and economics, and I really liked writing and I really liked maths. So for me, it was about how I could find something that kind of combined both. And I got into SEO originally as a bit of a copywriter. And then I started to find I just love tech SEO because I really like problem solving. And that led me to work at a couple of smaller agencies. I then went on to become managing director and a part owner of an agency called White.net, which was a great learning experience. And I would say thrown in at the deep end with 4 or 5 years SEO experience and taking over the running of an agency. And I really had to juggle that with how I wanted to progress as a specialist, but then also how I wanted to progress my own career. And in the end, we made the decision to actually sell. So then we were acquired by Found. And then for me, it's been a really good fit to kind of go back to my roots with SEO kind of heritage and take over as head of SEO here.
Nice. So you've done both now. So what would you say is the pros and cons of working as a head of SEO at a larger agency versus which I presume was a smaller agency where you were holding both hats, both SEO and running a business?
I think I loved the time I had running my own business. It was exciting and the autonomy was great, but having your finger in so many pies was difficult. Having to make decisions on whether I'd go to an SEO conference where I could learn and progress my expertise versus sitting at home with a P&L spreadsheet. It was a bit of a trade-off. But then moving over to Found, I thought I knew SEO, but working in a place with SEO where there's so many more people, you have access to bigger clients and more kind of problems to solve, and more channels. I do head of SEO now, but I work so closely with paid. I work really closely with a really great data team, with a CRO team. It almost puts a whole new spin on SEO. So I think that was probably the experience I was lacking before when I was running my own thing.
Nice. So what is a day-to-day like for you, just so you can kind of give people an idea? Because I know there are a lot of smaller agencies out there who, they may not be making the type of money they would make if they actually took a job at a larger agency, and maybe they don't know the type of work they'd be doing. So what's a typical day like for you?
So I'm really lucky because I have a boss that really understands that I like doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I was like, if I work for someone, they're going to tell me what to do all the time. And I couldn't think of anything worse. So for me, I still have a lot of the autonomy I had when I was running my own business. So there wasn't that significant change. But I like to say I've just removed all the boring bits. So for me, a typical day to day, it's coming in and doing performance checks with my clients. Then it's a lot of client meetings and strategy meetings. I like to run my team with brainstorms and group activity. So we do things we have whiteboard walls, and it's just all pulling together on kind of strategic direction, reviewing each other's work. And that tends to be how I spend most of my time, looking at problems and working out the solution SEO-wise, and then handing that over for the people that do the tactical day-to-day work to get on with it. Mm-hmm. So it's quite top level, which is probably the difference between if you were running your own thing and you were maybe a 1 or a 2 man band. I have to do much less of getting my hands dirty, but a lot more strategic, top level thinking, a lot of pitching, and then also just cool ideas. We build SEO tools here, so having all that resource means I can sit down with the data team and brainstorm something I want to automate and then watch it all come to life with the skills that I didn't have to build it.
Nice. So in terms of your team, how many people are on the SEO team when you're doing these whiteboard sessions? How many people do you kind of include in them? And I guess even more than that, if you can give an idea, like an example of what that is for somebody that may not be able to envision what a whiteboard strategic session is.
So I have a team, the SEO team, I believe we are 17 people in total. But found as an agency is 70. So what we do for a session like that, like normally our structure is there's like head of SEO, then there's a senior strategist and a senior operations person. And then beneath that, we have account directors with account managers and account execs. So when we do a strategy session, it's normally we pull the account directors in because we think it's really useful for people that don't work on the account to be involved. Because when you work on an account day to day, like it can be difficult to see new stuff. Mm-hmm. And quite often you're always blocking yourself. You're like, I don't think the client will go for that. So you cut the ideas short. So getting new people in the room really works well. So we try and get 4 or 5 of us in. And what normally happens is the person who works on the account like frames the problem. And they say, what's been going on with that like website? They flag any key performance trends they're seeing and what they've looked at so far. And then we normally split it in half and we have a list of other things that need looking at that we think maybe haven't been checked, we didn't get the data on. So a kind of list of every bit of research needed. And then we work on pulling like the game changers. So normally we start with a list of every granular like tactical thing we think we could do. And then we start grouping them and we're like, okay, so all of those ones are about indexation. And these ones really relate to kind of like equity and authority. And then we start to pull them all together. And then that gives us like these pillars of what our strategy should be. And then we give that to the client. So they see like top level what we're doing. And then here are the things we're going to deliver with each one.
Awesome. So how long would a session like that be for a particular client?
It really depends on like how complex the problem is and how many ideas we have. But I would say normally we do them between like 45 minutes to an hour. So we try and not kill people with them and time drain you. And we work on a lot of accounts. But then once that person follows up and does that extra research, we normally meet again and again and kind of make iterations. What we find is if we have too many people, we have people in the room for too long, like energy levels drop, and like you start to just reiterate like on the same one idea, and actually having the breaks and coming and going into that session really help.
Awesome. So what type of conferences do you attend? Obviously based in the UK. So I think it would be interesting to hear like what are some of the conferences that you go to on a yearly basis that you learn quite a bit from?
The one I've probably learned the most from is going to be Turing Fest, which is actually up in Edinburgh. If you're Americans and you want to travel over, it's well worth going to because it's also the week after Edinburgh Fringe. So right. You can go see some comedy and stick around for the conference. But I think they have really clear like tracks of talks and they cover things about like one of the tracks is always called Lead. And they talk about how to be an agency leader and how to grow a business, as well as talking about SEO and talking about the actual delivery and like performance. So I like a conference where you can like switch in and out what you're kind of learning for the day. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we all love Brighton SEO, of course, kind of in our heritage. And then I attend like a lot of like the SMXs, but also like a lot of the local London meetups are really good. There's one called the Marketing Meetup that happens every month in nearly every city in the UK and now in New York as well. And it's free and like it's 2 hours in the evening and I always walk away with something that I want to go change in my business from it.
Awesome. In terms of personal productivity, do you have any tips or tricks on how you manage so many clients, so many things going on, employees? I know a lot of people are always looking for hacks, tricks, tips on productivity. So what do you do to stay uber productive?
So I split my to-do list into all the sections that like I deal with on a daily basis. So like I'll have a sales to-do list, a marketing and so on. But then I work best with like complete freedom to kind of do what I feel like. So I will find that like if it's a day where I feel like doing an audit, I'll smash that out of the park and it will be done really quick. But then if I'm not in the mood, like forcing me to go against like what my natural kind of like want is for the day is just a nightmare. So I've learned to kind of know kind of what mood I'm in, being the most helpful. And like, I am terrible in the morning. Like prior to midday, the work I deliver is just not great. And I shouldn't attend meetings because I have nothing of value to say before 12. So like, for me, it's also knowing how to kind of arrange my schedule. So I make sure like I'm doing admin, boring stuff before 12, like I'm answering emails. And then in the afternoon is when we put those sessions in. And like for me, if I'm doing something really granular, like that needs focus, I want to do that at like 10 o'clock at night. And I'd rather work late than do things in the morning.
Nice. What type of places do you go to keep up on your skills? So obviously you're running the agency, so you're seeing a collection of many businesses and what's working and what's not. Are there any particular like either books, blogs that you follow to stay sharp?
So I love, there's a blog called SEO By The Sea, which I love for reading for up-to-date like SEO information. Bill, who runs it, analyzes like Google patents. So it's never like, here's how to do SEO. It's like, if you study this patent, this is what you find, and then think about that, how that could apply. And I prefer things like that where you really have to like go that final step yourself, because I think it encourages you to think outside the box. The other thing, just for staying on top, like we use Slack internally, and we just have a channel that has an RSS feed of every major SEO publication. So like SEO Land, SEO Journal, whatever else SEO things are called. And that feeds in like hourly for us. So anytime you have a spare minute, you can click in the channel and just pick an article based on the title that you think would be interesting and go read that. And we feed that in for SEO and PPC news. So it's fairly good for staying up to date in there.
Awesome. Cool. What other tools do you guys use to run the agency that you don't mind sharing that may be new to some of the listeners?
So we are obsessed with Slack for communication, especially at the moment, like we have quite a few people working from home, and we find Slack's just great for communication. We do all of our project management actually pretty much off Google Sheets. Just because we like linking Google Sheets so that you can have a client-facing version and then a version internally, and it will be synced up as to which columns pull through and which don't. Yep. So we love that. And then personal favorites from an SEO perspective, like there's a tool called Little Warden.
Say that one more time. Which one?
It's called Little Warden.
Little Warden. Okay.
And it is made by the same guy that made Kaboo, the link tool. Yeah. And what that does is it basically just monitors your site and it alerts you of all the boring stuff. So like if your SSL certificate's running out, if something's changed on page that's kind of significant, like it just monitors all the things you wouldn't really want to monitor as a person. And then the same with Content King, which is basically a continuous crawler. And with that continuous crawling, it alerts you of changes made. So if my client is changing their headings or their page titles or page type, I get a notification. Both of those feed into Slack. And so it's just really convenient to just be able to double check. And like we set competitors up in Content King, and quite often competitors will put like their sale prices and their offers in their page titles. Yep. So when they remove them, we get notified, and that's when we know to change ours to stand out as price competitive and stuff like that. Like anything that automates and monitors, I'm all for.
Awesome. Cool. So let's shift gears. So personal. So what's something you've spent 100 pounds or 200 pounds on recently that you're enjoying?
So honestly, I am the most boring person at the moment. I am saving to buy a flat in London. And it is beyond expensive. So I don't do anything fun with my money anymore, aside from count it and wait until I can buy a beautiful flat in central London. But then again, in saying that, probably the most enjoyable £200 was on a lot of wine on Friday, which I definitely felt the effect of Saturday morning. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us and share your experience and kind of how you've transitioned from owner to head of SEO at a large agency, and what day-to-day life is like. Guys, if you're still watching this, definitely hit the thumbs up button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below. Love to engage with you here on the channel. And thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next episode.